So this month for Black History Month, we are looking at the theme Strangers in a Strange Land from Psalm 137. And we'll begin with reading that. By the rivers of Babylon, we sat down and wept when we remembered Zion. There on the poplars we hung our harps. For there our captors asked us for songs. Our tormentors demanded songs of joy. They said, "Sing us one of the songs of Zion." How can we sing the songs of the Lord while in a strange land? If I forget you, O Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its skill. May my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth if I do not remember you. If I do not consider Jerusalem my highest joy. Remember, O Lord, what the Edomites did on the day Jerusalem fell. Tear it down, they cried. Tear it down to its foundations. O daughter of Babylon, doomed to destruction, happy is he who repays you for what you have done to us, he who seizes your infants and dashes them upon the rocks. So this third Sunday, we're going to start by looking back at what we have already considered with Psalm 137. So first of all, we've considered African American culture, the tradition that has emerged within the worship experience of song. Hopefully we're going to also be going through more prayer and liturgies, but we've at least started with song. And we've looked at a mixture of the spirituals and the hymns, which have helped, upon which African American culture's worship experience have been built. We spoke about Lift Every Voice and Sing as an anthem for the Black American experience. And that should be on the website so that everyone is able to hear and hopefully become a bit more comfortable with the song. And we talked about the period of the antebellum in America. This term antebellum means a period before a civil war in a country. And that period happens to coincide with the practice of slavery in America. It's rather tempting to see this history as an American history, with slavery and racism as an American institution. However, we spoke about the fact that the British may have ended slavery officially in 1807, but continued to benefit from the enslavement of African and African-descended people. Not only did they spend 40% of their annual treasury to provide reparation for the enslavers, a tragic decision which continued for decades to validate slavery, but they also benefited from slavery in other ways, such as being distributors of cotton that came from the American South. And that is, of course, where we had those farms or plantations that were worked by enslaved people. These issues and more point to Britain's continued declaration that African-descended people should work and that British people should benefit from their labor for free. We then identified the way the enslaved in Psalm 137 were strangers in a strange land. This notion of alienation, of being ridiculed or injured due to their faith in both the biblical text and also within American culture, have some measure of similarity. We spoke, for example, of the Africans and African-descended people who worshipped in the Brush Harbor, how they used quilts and pans that were turned upside down to muffle the sounds of their worship, and how worship was an expression of connection to God through sorrow, through intense sorrow, for a very degrading experience that they didn't know if they would survive, and many did not survive. And so we talked about this sense of ridicule that you see in Psalm 137, that the tormentors demand that they sing songs of joy, that they amuse them. And we spoke about how, in the African American context, similar things occurred, and it created very deep levels of pain and and a sense of being tremendously disrespected. Going forward, we will continue to identify the notion of alienation and being a stranger in a strange land. However, we will shift to focus on the way these issues are expressed within the British context for African descended people. We'll talk about people such as Sam Sharp and others who have helped us understand the power of protest right here in the United Kingdom. And so for that reason, we're looking at the topic Strangers in a Strange Land, the Power of Protest for Fourth Sunday. We'll connect that protest to those who hung their harps in the poplar trees. And as we do that, we're going to consider the way that God hears our protest for just causes, such as being treated humanely, such as having compassion for those who are in pain. We will explore the ways that worship has evolved on this side of the Atlantic for people who are African descended. And we will see if we can tie that together and have a richer understanding of Black History Month. I hope that you will find that really enjoyable, and please, in your spare time as you prepare for worship, make sure that you reread Psalm 137 so that you can get a fuller understanding of that text. Think about that sense of alienation. Think about the people who took the very things that connected them to God, their harps, which were instruments that helped them function as worshipers, and that those things were literally put away into the trees in protest because of the experience of not only being alienated, but the pain of those who held them against their will in this foreign land. I hope that it's something that we will all learn to enjoy together. We're also hoping that we'll have an opportunity to look at liturgies, how liturgies are formed, and how they're formed for at least the African American experience, but hopefully here as well in Britain. And so that we get just a fuller idea of how worship it functions in a different type of context. So I thank you again for your willingness to stretch and to grow in this area, and for your receptivity to people who come from a different place, but we're all coming to the same place, which is to the throne of heaven, together as people worshiping God. God bless you.